we have called the DFIR to go or DFIR to go. It's actually just an area where we kind of said this would be a good opportunity for us to follow back up on some of the biggest takeaways we've had from all the talks and just the experience overall the last 2 days. Before we go into to finish things out with Daryl coming back and then some fun stuff we've got for the afternoon.
If you want to see all of us and everyone's faces, if you change to the gallery view in your own view, you should see like a single line and it builds up if you've never used Zoom, and you want to do show grid video, and then you can drag it out, and that way you can see anyone else here as well. So right now it's just going to be like Allison, Brian, Rob.
Yeah, we're going to bring some more folks in.
Yes. Also, there has been a request, and this is actually a pretty neat idea, and I like it. If you spoke at the DFIR Summit, if you could go into your hallway and just put your Twitter handles, and then Phil and I can go through, or someone from SANS can go through while we're doing this and pin it to the channel. That way anyone can easily follow you. That was a request, and I think that's a good one. And someone else reached out. They had a hard time finding the Sweet Forensic Thing shirt in the store, and it's under Shop Men's.
It is currently sold out. We had way more orders than we had expected. So stand by, watch our Twitter account. We will definitely make a point of letting you know when that is back in as soon as it's ready. But bear with us on that. Just one of those things where, you know, when we've got a limited amount of stock and everybody crushes it like you did yesterday morning.
That's my fault.
You don't want to be like Old Navy and sell it and then just never deliver it.
We don't want to be like Old Navy, no.
Well, you want to know what's my fault, because I'm a kind of OCD about these shirts. That on the original version of the shirt, it was supposed to have on the back, in addition to Summit 11, it's supposed to have artifacts don't lie. It was because the friends don't lie. And I was like, oh, that was the entire point of the shirt. So we printed the shirts and went into stock, and we used to have women's shirts. I think those sold out a while ago. So we're just burning through the stock that's left right now. But the women honestly do have the coolest hoodie that's out there. A lot of men have asked, well, where's my hoodie? I was like, we don't have one for you. Only the women have the cool hoodie. But that is, if for any of the women who are looking for a women's fit, that is a really good hoodie to go take a look at. That's also limited stock too. We're not printing on demand of those. So we had to pre-order all of those and stock them in the warehouse. I should be, this is like my side job of doing a textile business opportunity online.
So I wrote the blog. And it's there. I actually copied and pasted and added a cute little graphic, and it's pinned in the channel. It's for585.com/laugh track.
Nice. So let me just real quick answer questions that are being asked a lot. Recordings, they'll show up in your portal account right along where you had previously joined these sessions. That could take days for us to finalize and get those posted up and ready. Slide decks will be within a couple of hours, same place. And the site for the clothing and stickers and other goodies, when they're available, we have a lot of stuff now, we just don't have this particular shirt, is sansgear.com. That way I can clear like 15 of the questions that are here. All right. Ooh, here's a good one. Somebody was asking about our background that we've got here. We will find a way to post the link for of that so you can use that in your own Zooms. That's a good question. All right. Well, Heather, what do you think? Where do you want to start out on what your biggest takeaway was?
Ooh, that's a good one. My biggest takeaway from the whole thing. I think that the harshest critic of anyone in DFIR is usually yourself. So whether you put any bias out there, you're usually the most biased against yourself without realizing it. So I think people really need to just start using their voice, research, document, and share.
It's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
I just pulled that out of nowhere.
That was good. Well, that means that then it's the right answer. I've got I think a lot of the takeaway just on collaboration and communication was really just woven throughout a lot of the talks, which was really awesome. I also think from an artifact perspective, so maybe I'll come back and ask you the same question from more of like an artifact or low level technical kind of a point. My biggest technical takeaway was actually Ryan Benson describing the Unfurl project that he did in conjunction with Obsidian and Google, and really, really amazed me how much more information is buried in the URLs. See what I said? URLs of some of the cloud services than I realized were there. I mean, there's an infinite number of potential artifacts, but looking into some of what were called the snowflake fields was really fascinating. Not only can it be broken out into various components like timestamps and machine IDs, but anytime I see some kind of uniqueness, anytime I see some kind of something that I can move across multiple evidence sources to find one originating event, it becomes very interesting to me. And sometimes using an entire URL is not valid. It's this one component now that I think it's going to bear a lot more research. So I already have it in the back of my mind of how I'd like to rewrite or add on to some of our labs in Forensics 572 to use specifically the Unfurl tool and pull some more value out of that. So we'll see where that goes.
You just said Earl.
That was accidental. He was saying a word that had it.
No, I know. It was still,
Unfurl.
yeah, I know, but it's embedded in the word now. You can't unhear it once you hear it.
And you know what, Phil, to chime in on what you just said, Jared, his talk on lucky iOS 13 or lucky number 13, the gambling talk, very, very similar to the things that are happening and the artifacts that how smart your phones actually are. So like the TP, possibly topic detection. And if he used an example in his chat, if you missed it, if you were in track 1, where he used an example where he was texting with his uncle and he doesn't have him saved. It would be like, let's say Rob is my uncle, Uncle Rob. He has him saved as Rob, but because he refers to him all the time, like happy birthday, Uncle Rob, or hi, Uncle Rob, this database knew that Rob Lee is Uncle Rob, which is creepy. It's amazing what we can actually get if we unfurl.
Bingo. With a phrase that pays.
We'll get to you in a minute, Rob. You always have some good stuff to say. Jessica, welcome back. What do you think your biggest takeaways were out of the event this year?
So it's really interesting because one of my biggest takeaways was in the communication on Discord and how much networking was available to people who ordinarily wouldn't necessarily be talking to each other, be it because of their geolocation in the world or because of their temperament. Maybe they're not somebody who's comfortable going up to you face to face and talking. But oh my gosh, so many great conversations, so many great DMs, both technical and people who, I mean, I've got at least 3 calls next week scheduled to talk with people about things in their future, things they're looking at, things they're researching, and the collaboration that's going to happen that comes out of this is going to be extensive. So I can't wait to see what people do with the connections and collaboration that they're making as a result of this and what next year's talks will be, what will be the things that top amazing research. I mean, you guys talked about great technical talks, and on top of that, Matt Sayer and David Cowan's talk about how to do the live analysis and how much time that's going to save us in validation in terms of ensuring that we understand artifacts more thoroughly and that we can test changes in better and easier ways. I mean, just incredible the amount of ways that people are thinking also about those keynotes and how motivating Lee, Daryl, Ladrina, and Matt were, and Owen, as far as how we can give back. The theme was so resonant throughout the whole thing, and I've had so many conversations with people about what kinds of projects they're thinking about how they can get more involved in the community. And I just kind of asked for a better takeaway. That's just amazing to me. Fills my heart.
You know what, Jess, I was talking about this yesterday, and I think we should possibly, when we're live, Rob, And clearly, I don't know that we'll ever be fully live because now we opened up this can of worms where anyone can attend remotely. But I think even if we are live, we should have Discord because people normally wouldn't speak to one another.
Discord,
that was kind of
threading.
It removes a barrier of intimidation, to be honest. And also people, some of the anonymity has also helped people. I know that's weird because I know that there was this comment about people should use their real names, but there were some people who I think feel more comfortable at anonymity and can actually voice their opinions that way, and their profession may preclude.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. The one thing that I think we need to do a better job of is, discuss, even though that we have the hallway channels, is that like the main track channels get it's a too fast a stream to catch. There's discussions, and without threading, it's hard to potentially peel off a discussion in the middle of that. So I think the hallway channels were, I found today, I wasn't paying attention to them much yesterday, and then I went into them today during the talks, and I said, oh, this is much easier to follow and see the content and seeing people directly interface with the content and the thoughts, where the main channels seem to be, half content, half people thinking about just random, squirrel thoughts at the same time. Not saying that's wrong. It was harder to stay focused on what the major content was. And that's why the hallway channels ended up being a huge benefit.
Yeah, I agree. I think if there was a little bit, if we direct people to use the hallway channels to discuss the topics at hand, the content of the talk, and use the track channels to discuss the jokes and the things in between and the announcements for things on the track, that's probably a better organizational space, especially with lack of threading.
I think it kind of happened on its own
because I think you were reading notes
nudging it.
take.
But just amazing the way everybody communicated and talked together, and just what a great experience. I'm super stoked for what's going to happen next. I actually feel that that maybe there's a way, and I know, Phil, you mentioned some of this in one of your intros earlier on track 1, that there's the community that continues from this, as opposed to this being an isolated event. I actually think that there's a really big opportunity from that to have collaborative forums of people who have ideas and meet from here. And I don't know the right way or the best way that SANS could potentially execute that, but I think that there's almost a hunger and a thirst for it. I know Heather mentioned the Digital Forensics Discord server. That's a great place where over 5,000 examiners already are. But I mean, what can we do to keep the momentum, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we normally keep some of this conversation to like the very, very end. So it gets squashed into like this 30-second blob of words. I'm glad we get a chance to talk a little bit about this kind of stuff now, because one of the things that I always tell people at the end of the summits is, now that you've seen this, how many of you are going to be submitting next year? Like, what is the research that you've had in the back of your mind? Now, whether it's through the Digital Forensics Discord server or just through, trade and email addresses or whatnot, you got a whole lot of options of how you're going to be able to think that through, and you're going to make cool discoveries. You're going to, whether it be some of our soft skills or more storytelling type of talks, or whether you're talking about really deep dive artifact-based stuff. There's so many options, and there's a long time between now and 363 days from now for research and development, not just of content, but of friendships and colleagueships. So I'm hoping that of the people that are attending here this week, that we've got at least some of you submitting for our CFPs. And it's not just the DFIR summit either. Our threat hunting summit, which is normally in New Orleans, but it will be in obviously virtual this year. We have closed that CFP, but we have our Cyber Threat Intelligence Summit coming up. And those three, DFIR, Threat Hunting, and Cyber Threat Intelligence, are the three that are part of the DFIR world. Then we also have a variety of our other summits. We've got Cloud, we've got AppSec, we've got Pentest, Hackfest. SANS is not just in the DFIR world, of course, but find other places to talk, other places to submit your information. I know we'd love to have you in whatever venue is best suited to your material.
Can I compliment something that was really neat this year that I hadn't seen in previous years, and maybe I missed it? I really like the concept of these right-size talks. Not all talks were 30 minutes. Frank's talk was a little bit shorter, but it was the right size for the content. And I think we're about to see that with Daryl's talk. And I really think it was great that effort was made to make right-size talks for the content so people don't have to stretch or compress. That's something I've never seen before.
It does make sense. Sometimes I think a shorter talk is even harder, like what you talked me into for DFRWS. 20 minutes, 17 minutes to like state your piece. It's difficult.
It is. I actually, it's one of the things I like about OSDFCon because they do the lightning talks. And I've actually challenged myself before to give talks that I have hour-long talks for in 5 minutes. And it's really a neat challenge to try to take the content and say, what's the most important information I need to distill? DFRWS does these same lightning talks as well, and really get that content out there quickly. It's actually really cool to hear about work people are doing as well that's like new and novel.
Yeah.
So I just love this concept of right-size talks, and it is so freaking challenging to make a short talk.
I agree. And Frank's storytelling, the perfect 10 minutes, that was fantastic on thinking of timing.
I really have to give a hand to a lot of the presenters who did co-presenting, because a lot of people, I don't know if you are here on Zoom and you run into these issues, but because of the very slight delay, knowing when the right beat is to when to transition over to the next speaker. You know, if you notice on larger Zooms, you tend to start talking and the other person talks exactly at the same time. And there's that 2 to 3 second you're talking over each other. I really was impressed, and I was a little worried about it for those that were co-presenting over the past couple of days, whether or not that would happen, or, you know, but they clearly practiced and they had really good handoff back and forth between each other, you know, the beats and everything that were set up. You know, I've been on Zooms where because of that half-second delay, and the human eye and ear are looking for when is the right point to start talking again. And people tend to just continually talk like I'm doing right now, because if you give a little bit of a second, someone will start jumping right in. But the co-presenters nailed it. And for anyone who's watching right now, that's hard to do. And everyone's been on Zoom and all these calls, so you know what I'm talking about. The talking over each other thing is sometimes really hard to strategize, but all the co-presenters really did a good job on that.
You know, I also would like to say something that SANS does uniquely, and people might not be aware of this, is every speaker, no matter how common you are of a speaker, everyone gets a mentor. And everyone works with their mentors to ensure that their talk is developed to not only have the right technical pieces, but be presented well. And I think that's really what makes this the TED Talks of forensics. So I think it's just really clever that that element is brought in.
I agree. Rob, I wanted to share something with you that came to me as a direct message. So first of all, I personally credit Rob Lee to the reason this summit is free. So thank you, Rob. But people are sending messages saying they would have never been able to get their organization to pay for them to attend a conference. And the opportunity has been amazing. So thank you, Rob.
Well, honestly, the real credit goes to the summit team. I mean, it was a combined decision. We all were talking about it, about the right thing, you know, between Brian, Jennifer, you know, management at SANS. Everyone was saying, should we do it? You know, with week after week of not knowing whether we're going to go to actual an in-person event or not, it was clear that this thing is going to hold on to the end of the summer. Now it's, you know, maybe to the end of the year. In terms of, are we going to go back to any in-person events for like summits, that is. So was this constant back and forth. And so, yeah, I appreciate the credit, but it's actually all of SANS is trying to take a look at this as a whole, because they want to try and figure out ways to energize with the community and connect with the community. And so, you know, between this one and Hackfest, I was definitely on this camp of let's go ahead and make it free. But again, I think everyone's mindset was there. They just want to make sure that we're doing it and we're able to execute. It's not easy to figure out how to do a Zoom with 10,000 people in multiple rooms, and how to do YouTube streaming. We have an individual behind the scenes. His name's Brian Corcoran. A big shout out to him. If he's somehow
his name right there,
trips and falls down a set of stairs and is not online, I actually worry about the event, you know, continuing forward. You know, he's one of the massive IT team that's behind it, but Brian's idea is to be able to get the YouTube streaming and be able to get some of this stuff set up pretty quickly. You know, huge hat tip to him and his team that he leads to make sure that we're all stable and we somewhat look good on camera.
Yeah, and even to extend that theme, what a lot of our attendees don't necessarily realize, even at a live event where you're passing by these people physically in the hallway, not just seeing names on Discord, it's a massive team to put this kind of an event on. You know, just from Brian Glenn, Jen Santiago, and their entire team, whether it's answering questions in Discord, kind of curating questions here in Zoom, or dealing with screen issues, interfacing with Brian and the rest of his entire IT team. It is a massive, massive undertaking. So we greatly appreciate, I cannot even begin to state how much we appreciate the excessive amount of work that they put into making these things work. And you know, we do our best to try and help, but really the heavy lifting comes from behind the scenes, just like any kind of a production. So don't hesitate to reach out to our team, Corrigan, who's been running a great Discord server for us for the whole time, and it's just been it's a massive effort. So don't overlook that.
The other thing we ended up doing, which we tried for this one, is that if you go to the agenda, and it was hard to get this announced, but again, I want everyone to go look at that because it's in there and it's a really cool feature, is that you'll see a little calendar icon. If you click on that, it books your calendar, because I know, as with most of us, we still have other things going on around us, and unless you block your calendar, it doesn't exist. So he's like, well, I'll attend the summit, and then having to fill out your calendar, being able to do that. And there's one in there too, it's like block it all. And I like the universal one that was created, because every single track and every single event was automatically dropped on your calendar. But if you did want to say, I want this talk or that talk, to make sure no one else books your time, you know, for another Zoom or, you know, normal work, it was very useful. And, you know, a big credit goes to Emily and Brian Corcoran for being able to make that happen for the agenda. Take a look at the agenda. If you've not seen that, you know, I hope that's going to happen in future events for this, especially the virtual. So you could, you know, before the event, make sure you're not going to be accidentally be brought into a, you know, 30-person call for work and you can't get off of it, and you prefer to be listening to you know, Jess Garcia talk about, you know, machine learning and a bunch of other cool things.
Yeah, I do like the fact that also that it was, you registered for the whole event and then could pick your calendar items. Sometimes conferences are the other way, where you have to then each register for each unit in order to get those calendar invites. So it was actually a really smart way to have you register once, but yet have multiple separate calendar invites and be able to choose the ones you want.
One other question and comment that I'm question and Zoom comment in Discord, I've got all over my screens here, that I see coming up a couple of times now. Just about, once again, where the materials are going to be. Question about, is there a Git repo of the links? Those are scattered pretty well across the materials. So I would say your best bet for all of those online resources will be the slides that, again, are going to show up in that location. It certainly is going to help you with context as well, because, you know, I don't know how old everybody is, but I remember way back in ancient history, before there were zeros at the end of the year, you know, we used to trade bookmarks.html and say, these are bookmarks, and they had absolutely no context. It was just basically a great big link farm. So getting the context that you can pull is something that I think is really helpful as well. So that's why we make sure you have that material. And then, of course, the video recordings that are available as well that get pushed to YouTube. And to kind of look back toward some point in the future, whenever we do return to live, like what that's going to look like. We've done video recordings, high grade, HD, professional video recordings of our speakers for a number of years. And that's also largely, you know, I know he doesn't want me to say this, but that's largely to Rob's credit as well, you know, getting that to happen, which becomes a big benefit to our speakers, because this becomes something they can put into their portfolio, if you will, of things they've spoken about publicly at a big event. And it's also a way that your colleagues and, you know, into the future, people can refer back to the work that you've done without having to say, I gave a talk 3 years ago, it was cool, but you weren't there. I routinely point my students to a any number of videos from previous summits saying, oh, if you'd like to know about how to integrate your tools into your forensic analysis workflow, go to this URL and look at Mary DeGracia's talk, because she did this a couple years ago. It was amazing. If you want to learn about Moloch, go to this one from last year's talk. So
to be honest, I use them all the time as required viewing for graduate courses I teach. Right. And I know I'm not the only instructor who does it. To be honest, Heather, your body drag fitness talk with Sarah Edwards, that is a must view in my syllabus. So there are some great, amazing content that's been out there. And one of the reasons it can be so referenceable is because of the quality of the talks, and actually the quality of the recordings makes a big difference, Phil, that they're actually well done, easy to understand, and very, very clear.
That's the same with your Alexa or your Skynet. I still reference that all the time.
And we're glad to provide that too, because we've got a ton of free resources that we're able to provide too. So a question that just came in on free or special access to documents or other basic lectures. The SANS webinar series is extensive, and I know we've got hundreds of them. I don't even know how many in total, but we've got those going across not just forensics, but of course the entire spectrum of what SANS is here to do. So we've got those as resources. We've got posters, cheat sheets, all available as PDFs to download. We also have virtual machines that you can use that are full processing systems. The Sift workstation, it's been around for a while and continuously reinvested into. When I was doing forensic processing for a lot of my law enforcement work, that was my only forensic platform. That was it. It's all I needed. It had everything I needed in order to do that job. So don't think that this is an academic use only. Sift has been a game changer in terms of the appliance approach that we take to a lot of these machines, where we build this entire lab in a VMDK file, and then you're able to boot and use that. So in terms of free resources, don't hesitate to go to sans.org/free. And it's a continuously evolving list of the variety of resources that we have there.
Someone asked if there's a Sift 4 coming out, and the answer is no. We do have 20.04 support being released. Sift has become more like security onion. We just update the packages, and you just update. And at that point, but 20.04 LTS support is about to be dropped. We're about there. But we have Python 3, Python 2. We have to do a lot of testing just to make sure we don't have to deprecate any tools out.
I love this channel. I could just watch it all day.
I know, it's like screaming by, and I would not survive. I have another monitor, but again, it's off to the side here, and that's my head turned to like do this to make sure I could see both at the same time. We also have some new things we're doing, Phil. We're doing every other week during, actually, I think we're gonna continue doing this for a while. We have a lot of our labs now in the cloud, and as a result of being able to do that, we're doing Tech Tuesdays workshops every other week. Look for it on the SANS website. But basically, it's authors coming up with actual, instead of just a webcast, we're doing labs. It's 30 minutes of here's what you're about to do, and then the other hour and a half is a full up lab environment. So if anyone's never experienced live online in the way SANS does between the Slack channel and the presentation, it's a free thing that you're going to go learn a skill. The master of it, though, and I know he's listening right now, is Mark Baggett with his Python one. He did one earlier this week, and he did one a month ago too. And I guarantee he's already lining up another one, because it is amazing watching him walk through, through the lab environment. He has a bunch of Slack bots, and he's doing it with 1,000 students simultaneously. It's mind blowing. But again, we're doing those about once every 2 weeks. Heather, you're doing one up here.
We are. I think like August. It's right around the time I'm doing the summer camp for Lee Whitfield. Lee and I are doing one. The other Lee. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. So we are doing one. And you know what? Mark Baggett, he has a special skill. I'm not kidding. He did my lunch show, the Control-Alt-Delete thing. And I'm not kidding. My face was like this close to the screen the whole time. He brought up just Python, and it was all music trivia. It was awesome. Like, you should have seen the Missy Elliott one. It was amazing. It was mind-blowingly amazing. So thank you, Mark. You are brilliant.
I think it's great that you're doing that too, for another reason, because it's hard for people to sometimes express or know if they're going to be successful in that online platform environment. So being able to get that little snippet of it, that test in that short time period, gives you the confidence that you can succeed in that environment. And honestly, you can use that to justify to your employer if you're going to be successful in that environment. So I think those little tests are valuable.
That's a great point. And for the 585 one that Lee Crognelli and I are going to be doing, it's going to be on testing and validation, which Jess, you and I stand on this platform like crazy people, but how to create test app data and how to verify it. So we're going to teach you. What do we have, Rob? I always say it's like 4 hours. Is it 2 hours?
What
the test classroom?
Tech Tuesday? It's 2 hours. Yeah, it's 2 hours.
I'm always in between.
We initially thought 4 hours, and then we're like, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of helpers that have to engage. So we did one that was longer, and I think we almost died. So we're like, okay, let's shoot for 2 hours. It ended up being the right timing to be able to do it.
I think that's easier for people
I'm
to
post in the link here for where to look for everyone to see this. I'll pin it quickly too.
2 hours is the perfect time for someone to fit that still into a full work day and be able to test that value and still gain knowledge. And Heather, I can't wait to see the dates for that one, because you know I am the biggest supporter of testing and validation for especially in mobile. Like
I think it's like the week
critical.
of August 12th or something. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I have to look at my schedule, but I'll let you know for sure when it is. It will be good. And you know what? It's also a good opportunity to hear people that I think some of us speak differently to others. And some people I know would think I could never have Heather talk to me for 6 days straight. She would drive me crazy. And then you would take the class with like Mattia or Terry McGuire or Lee or someone else. But it's true. And Rob, I think when I was ready to take 508, you were like, take it with Eric Zimmerman. I know that he will resonate with you. So it's always, and I ended up taking it with Chad, and Eric is probably still mad at me for this. But I'm finally going to take 498 with Eric in August. Finally, I will have him as an instructor. But you know what I mean? Some people I feel like just speak your language, if that makes sense to you. And it's ironic, I have a lot of law enforcement when I teach 500, they're like, wow, you speak my language. And I was like, okay, I like it. I don't really know what that means because I've never been law enforcement, but sweet.
And that's really interesting though, because there's such a variety of instructors and they all have different backgrounds and different styles, but they all are such quality. And you know that the material is all going to be hit, but it's what resonates with you. And like, I specifically intentionally took 4,500 with David Cowan because I knew he was the person who I wanted to take that course from. And I think marrying those things up so that you know what's going to fit for you is such an important thing. And one of the things that you get with SANS is there's so many of those free talk seminars, the at-night events, et cetera, where you can actually test out how you feel an instructor speaks, talks, their rhythm, the way that they, because of their experience, where their analogies lie and if they're going to resonate with you. So that's really great.
And we have a lot of friends in the community too. You know, Jessica, I mean, what is it, next week or the week after? DFIRWS is kicking off.
Next week, starting Monday.
Week, yeah. You know, and we have a lot of instructors that, you know, are doing both. And, you know, we actively encourage that. You know, we try to be good stewards in the community. SANS is, you know, we look at everyone out there. Black Hills Information Security is doing a bunch of stuff to, you know, keep, you know, things rolling. But, you know, big hat tip to all the organizations out there that are, you know, really trying to continually engage the community during COVID times. And it's not easy, but I appreciate it all.
Likewise, we reach out to instructors. Both keynotes at DFIRWS are SANS instructors this year. So the two keynotes are David Cowan and Mary DeGrazia. So can't beat that. Heather's giving a talk. And it's also really a different event, and it's kind of neat to, because it's not like the SANS DFIR Summit. And I would say and Daryl Fife will be speaking and running the lightning talks. But what's really different about it is that it's the intersection of academia and practitioners. So there's a lot of technical peer-reviewed papers. So a completely different event. If you're interested in that, check it out.
No, it's been great.
The Discord it's like a scroll. It's flowing so fast.
I can't follow it. It's too quick. It's like a YouTube channel during news stories, like when they go shh.
Yeah, some people are posting in there. I'm curious, who is taking 308. It's the beta next week. Digital Forensics Essentials.
Such a great course. I'm so excited about it.
Brand new.
All right,
And
I got
posting about 710 in there, Phil. No pressure. It's coming.
Tell me about it. Yes. Hey, Rob. We're just about at the point where we're supposed to go to break, but confidential source number 17 just provided me with something that I think I need to share with everybody. But I think it's funny for us, but it's also interesting to show how, as we've been talking about, like cultivating relationships within this community, and the fact that you're going to be rerunning into the same people for your entire career is something that you definitely will want to be aware of. You're going to make those relationships work. I'm going to go ahead and do this just before we go ahead and take a quick break.
Is this a wait for it moment? Or...
Hang on.
Oh my goodness.
Tell me that's not a throwback right there.
I am wearing a tie. It's one of the only ties.
And look, you've got like 700% more hair then than you do now.
No, that's crazy. Confidential source, trying to figure out who would have taken this.
Oh my gosh, but Rob, you look like you're an old man there. I think it's the tie.
It is.
So just for everybody's knowledge, this is
but that looks like it's taken in the 70s.
That's because it's all fuzzy. It's one of those Instagram filters.
So just so everybody knows,
it's like an old IBM photo, someone's saying.
This is about 2003, just so everybody gets an idea of going back in time there. That's awesome.
That is Phil on the right.
Yeah,
yes.
No, he's not calling himself out, but that's Phil right there.
Phil, that's
totally
you?
Phil.
No, totally.
Yes, that's him.
Totally. That's me over here.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome! I picked out Rob. Phil, you were incognito.
And that's Rob
Crazy.
with hair.
People say you look like Dwight in your shirt and tie.
Wow, this is great. Phil looks like he was once part of Nickelback.
Ooh, wow. That's, I don't really know what to think about that, but okay.
I love it.
It's not the worst thing somebody said to me, we'll put it that way.